Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany for the new subscribers, and we are currently entering our 4th year homeschooling this year. And with so many parents deciding to homeschool this year with everything that's happening, it has been placed on my heart to put as much information as I can out there to help you figure out what your next steps are. So while I do not know everything about all the different areas of homeschooling, I want to help as much as I personally can. And for those of you who are in the same walks of life as me, where you've got early readers and early elementary and things like that, I feel like I can hopefully help guide you through the different things that you're probably worrying about and stressing over and trying to choose right now. So this video is simply me explaining the 5 top types of homeschooling that are out there to kind of help guide you into what you feel like might be a good fit for your family. Because if you have started researching at all, you know that it is not a one-size-fits-all situation with homeschooling. I had a friend reach out to me and ask me some questions, and she was like, Brittany, this is a whole nother world when you dive into it. And I was like, oh yeah, girl, absolutely. So I'm going to go over the 5 main types of homeschooling that most of you have probably heard about, have had mentioned to you. And while I don't know everything about all of these, I do want to mention them so that if it sounds like something that interests you, you can start to do more research on your own to figure out if that's a good fit for you. So let's get started. While I'll be talking about the different types of schooling, I'll also be letting you know different types of curriculum that you can maybe look into. I will go ahead and let you know that anything that I've looked into or used in the past has been Christian based. If you're looking for secular curriculums, I really don't have any good info on those, as anything that I've researched and looked into has always been Christian based, as that is what we wanted for our family. But the first one is School at Home. So 2 of the main curriculum companies that you might want to look at are Abeka and Bob Jones University. So what you get with these, and while they can be a little bit pricey, it is going to be a godsend for the people that are like, I don't know if I'm going to do this next year, after this year. I don't know if I'm going to continue, but I want to make sure that my child has everything they need, and then we can move on. So with Abeka, I have used parts of Abeka before in math and loved it. They are about a year ahead of what public schools usually are at, and they send you, typically you can buy piece by piece with these. However, they typically offer box set curriculum, which means you're going to get everything you need to teach every subject, and it's going to tell you what to say. And they also have 2 different types of those box set curriculums that you can buy. So you can either get the ones where you're the teacher, but it tells you what to say. So you get teacher guides, and it literally goes through the whole lesson, what you need to review, what you need to say during a review, what you need to do next, what the activity is, things like that. And then you have a choice of teacher led. So you can choose to do online or DVD sets, where it's a classroom setting that your child is watching, and then when it's over, they can do their work from there. So you have options with this. I know that I have heard a lot of moms say that have used it before. I think it's just more of a comfort thing as well, knowing that your child is getting everything they need. You don't have to worry about any gaps or anything like that. And I've also heard a friend of mine say, if anything was to ever happen to me and my husband had to put my children back in school, there would be no doubt in his mind that they had what they needed to enter back in. So as grim as that kind of sounds, it is like a peace of mind kind of thing. However, it is very, like I said, a traditional school approach. You're just doing it at home. So if that is something that interests you, I would highly recommend Abeka. I've never used anything from Bob Jones University, but it is also along the same lines of Abeka. So if that interests you, look those up. The second type I'm going to talk to you about is the classical approach to homeschooling. Now, this is a more traditional approach to the child being more intellectual. So there are 3 different stages of a classical education, and it is the grammar stage, the logic stage, and the rhetoric stage. So it follows a pattern. And with the classical approach, I've read about it. It follows like different patterns of history and science, I believe. So like with history, it'll study the ancients first, Middle Ages next, Renaissance, Reformation, and modern times. So by that point, you're going to study that 4 years, and then you're going to go back to the ancients and study it again, but at that point you'll be at a higher level, so you'll be doing different topics for that, or different ways of study for that. And so you're just building on the information that you already had from that as a younger student. So it does go into 4-year cycles or patterns with that. It's more rigorous. It's language and literature based. You're going to do Latin, things like that. So I don't know a ton about it. I do know there are a lot of people that love this approach for their children, and Classical Conversations is also a company that is used widely among the homeschool world, and there are also co-ops built strictly around the Classical Conversations curriculum, where you might go once a week, do co-op together, and then everyone does their work at home after that, but they're all studying the same things at the same time. So if that's something that interests you, and I have heard someone say that this is almost like private Christian school for homeschooling. So if that's something that interests you, that might be something to look into as well. So the next one is unit studies, and I'm actually doing a unit study approach this year with Gather Around Homeschool, and there's a few more approaches that are kind of linked into that, and I'll go back into that later. But unit studies are really nice because if you have a large family or multiple kids that you're trying to teach at the same time, a unit study is really nice because what you're going to do is you're going to take one topic, one main theme, and you're going to build on that with all the other subjects. So our unit study this August will be Antarctica. What they're going to do is they're going to do language arts based on the literature and the words that we're learning when we're reading about Antarctica. They're going to do art and history based on what is found in Antarctica. The geography will be based around Antarctica. So it's an approach where you're learning about one main theme, but in all of the different ways that you can find out about that one thing, if that makes any sense. So with Gather Around, that is a really great unit study. And all you have to add for that curriculum is a math, which is really nice. But if you are interested in a unit study, there are the different websites or things that you can look up for a unit study are, sorry, I have my notes, so if I'm looking down, that's why. Homeschool Legacy, homeschoolshare.com, and unitstudy.com. And like I said, if you want a unit study based approach, I'm using Gather Around this year. I have found it to be very much to the interests of the child, and then you build off of that. And with Gather Around, you get a different unit study a month if you buy a whole year bundle. So we'll be doing a different theme every 4 to 5 weeks, which I'm super excited about. It's going to keep it fresh and fun in our homeschool. So I will be linking those things down below as well. But if teaching the children one main theme or topic and then building off of that is something that interests you because you have more children that you're teaching, I would highly recommend looking into a unit study. The nice thing about these is that any work provided is typically done by levels. So what you're going to get is things that are going to be a good fit for a pre-reader or early elementary, and then upper elementary and middle school, and then high school. So they're not all doing the same work. They're just doing work based on that same theme, but for their own age levels. So that's really nice to have when you're wanting to learn together, and especially for that family atmosphere, to keep it very close-knit and to be very much a family experience. I feel like that's a really fun way to do school. So the next one I want to talk about is the Charlotte Mason method of homeschooling. Now, this is something that, as I have homeschooled over the years, I have found myself gravitating more towards. So like I said, we're using a unit study this year, but they very much have incorporated a lot of the Charlotte Mason approaches. So even though you go with a different curriculum, you may notice a few of the things that I'm going to talk about with you that are in the approach that the curriculum might use. So Charlotte Mason, she lived in the turn of the 20th century. She loved children, she taught children, and her approach to teaching them was with what you would call living books and narration. And there was a lot of nature study, and I'm going to dive a little bit more into this, but with a living book, that is a book that talks about a topic and makes it come alive. So it's like you're there. It's like you're witnessing it and seeing it and hearing the thoughts and things like that, versus like textbook reading of information. So that is the difference. She was very much a believer in having only living books. The narration would be to have the child listening and then narrate back to you what they heard, what they understood, and talking about it. And I do find that this is such a fun way to do school, and I do very much incorporate this into my homeschool now. And then they also do a lot of nature study, so learning of God's creation firsthand and the ways of nature. So I'm going to link a post that I found from Simply Charlotte Mason down below, and I just have found that that is a really great site to learn all about Charlotte Mason, to find different things that you might want to apply to your homeschool for Charlotte Mason approaches. She would use handwriting and spelling and music, art, things like that, but they would introduce it in such an organic way by studying those things. So with spelling and handwriting and copy work, it wouldn't just be words from a list or on a page. It would be from actual works of literature and words that they were actually learning based on what they were studying, versus just giving the child a list of words to memorize. There's a lot of memory work with Charlotte Mason, so it's just allowing their mind to just absorb everything while a child has so much of that ability while they're young, which I love. I love this approach. It's not all about teaching that child how to write pages and pages of work, versus teaching them how to love to learn and to let their minds absorb all those facts and interesting things that they're naturally learning just by being around it. So the three things that she based her approach on were the environment, which is how the child is raised. So based on how the parent teaches and raises that child, the discipline, or the cultivating the good habits for that child and developing moral character, and then life, which is the academic side of teaching them with school, with things like that. Like I said, this is very much an approach that over time I have eased myself into understanding that I'm not going to ruin my child if they don't grasp every single concept every year, and knowing that every child is developmentally on a different level, and it would be the same even if they were in a public school, that they're going to catch things on their own time, and that is totally okay. And so teaching them in a way that they can learn to love these things, and that they can organically learn to, you know, start reading a book on their own, or learning different math concepts or things like that, that then lead into their interests for life, is just such a beautiful way to teach school. So I would highly recommend at least looking into the Charlotte Mason method and approaches, I do think it's a really fun way to do school. Some of the Charlotte Mason based curriculum that I have come across is, like I said, simply Charlotte Mason. Masterbooks, which we used the full curriculum of Masterbooks for both my school age children last year and really liked it. Some of the like the language arts and different things like that were just not, I think the way that they were laid out was not interesting enough for my child or for my children, or it kind of skipped around more, which if you look at Masterbooks YouTube channel and watch their videos, everything they do and why they do it and how they do it is for a reason, but that doesn't mean that it's always going to be a good fit for every child. So while the language arts didn't work for us, we still use that math curriculum and love it. It is the perfect fit for both my kids, and they are thriving in math because of Masterbooks and the Charlotte Mason method. And then the Good and the Beautiful, I have heard people refer to that as a Charlotte Mason method because of the beautiful moral integrity that it teaches, as well as the amazing beautiful artwork that they include. Things like that, I'm telling you, it's probably the prettiest curriculum I have ever seen. It is gorgeous, and it is heavily literature based. You're reading a lot with your child, you're studying words, you dictate words and then do copy work, things like that very much inhabit the ways of Charlotte Mason. We found that curriculum to solely use it to be a little too rigorous once we got a couple of years in. I did use that the first 2 years I homeschooled, and I will tell you, if you need just a jumping off point to know you're not going to fail your child, you just need something that's like open and go. But if you decide to homeschool later, you can find something else, but for now you need budget friendly and something that you know is going to work. I would go that route. The Good and the Beautiful is amazing. It's beautiful. I really enjoyed sitting with my son and reading the beautiful read aloud readers that come with the curriculum. We still use them every day for our read aloud time. There are still things in the Good and the Beautiful that I supplement with. So while that is solely the only curriculum that while that is solely not the only curriculum I use completely for both my children, I still use parts of it because you just can't get better than that if you need something to just get started and to also just be something that you might enjoy, like just starting out homeschooling and it telling you what to do, but also being very budget friendly. So I would highly recommend the Good and the Beautiful. The last approach that I want to go over is the unschooling method of homeschool. With this method, what you're doing is basically having the child kind of allow you to hear their interests. With unschooling, what you're going to want to do is allow the child to tell you what their interests are, and then let it be more interest-led homeschooling. So not necessarily like more free range, but finding books based on what their interests are, and then allowing them to learn from those things, and then basing the other subjects that you're doing off of their interests, if that makes any sense. I've heard a lot of people that unschool use Netflix as part of school, YouTube as part of school, field trips, things like that are more interest-led. And when I say Netflix and YouTube, I don't just mean like watching trash all day. I mean watching documentaries, watching things about geography, watching things about, you know, animals and the science behind things, stuff like that that is naturally interesting to the child, so that you can kind of piece together their education based on their interests, and finding ways to be out in nature, to take hikes, to do field trips, to be more hands-on learning versus doing worksheets all day. So unschooling is something we're also going to implement in our homeschool a little bit more this year. My goal is to make school more fun this year. I have been terrified you know, the past few years of failing my child or my children and not teaching them the right way and allowing them to, you know, not thrive in the way that we're learning. And at this point in homeschooling, I have learned that the more stress that you put on your child, the more they will shut down. So we will be doing worksheets, we will be doing curriculum, you know, we'll have math every day, but we're also learning Spanish because my kids wanted to. We're gonna be cooking a lot more. We're gonna be doing things like that, and hiking and doing a lot of field trips based on interests and being outside right now, so that the kids can just have a really great year and enjoy being in school. I want them to love to learn. The beautiful thing about all of these different types of learning is that you can incorporate a little bit of each one if you want to. So, like I said, we're using a unit study, but it's very much Charlotte Mason based, and then we'll also be unschooling based on the interests of my children. So I hope that this has given you a little bit of a description for the different types of homeschooling that you will hear most of the time, and that it will kind of give you a little encouragement to see that it is not one size fits all, and you can use a little bit from all of these or some of them, or just strictly use one, and it's okay, because you're going to learn as much as your child does, and you're going to learn with them. So I hope that the ones of you who have decided to homeschool this year, that this helped you kind of see what your vision for your homeschool will be. And I would highly recommend that the first thing you do is to sit down with your spouse, and if the two of you are on the same page with homeschooling, that you would go ahead and just talk about what your vision is for your children, what you want to see from them, how you want to see them grow up, what the why is behind why you're teaching them different things, and then backtrack from that and retroactively decide how to homeschool. This is very much an approach that I am trying to incorporate now, because I have learned that just because I think something works doesn't mean that it's actually working for my child. So I would just highly recommend seeing what the vision is for the future of that child, and just seeing what kind of person you want them to be, and then deciding what would actually be the best fit for you and them at the same time. So I hope that this was helpful to you. Let me know what curriculum you're looking at and what you found interesting. Let me know what type of homeschooling you're going to be doing if you're using any of these 5. And I can't wait to hear from you. So I will see you in my next video. Bye.